Have you ever seen someone make an entire room burst into laughter with just one perfectly timed reference? It's not because they've memorized pop culture encyclopedias. It's because they understand something that most people don't about the psychology of references. Today, I'm going to reveal that secret that makes references so addictive and why references are an integral part of the draft method that I teach. I'll show you why the most powerful references are not always the ones that everyone gets, which seems counterintuitive, but is not. I will show you how to craft references that create instant bonds with strangers and the unexpected psychological factor that makes references even more memorable than regular details. But first, let's watch this 4-second intro. References. References are fun. But did you know that the most memorable references aren't always the ones that everyone understands immediately? Let's get into it. Stick around to the end where I'll share my reference formula that you can use in any conversation or piece of writing or performance starting today. My first video on the draft method is about details. It was my first vid on the channel, so I hope it was as informative as I wanted it to be. Go check it out and let me know your thoughts. Here's the difference between details and references. You share descriptive details of the story or information you're imparting in order for whomever is listening to visualize in their heads what you want them to see, as opposed to what they might see on their own. For example, if I were to say, I saw a young girl running, without further details, the audience or reader will fill in all those blanks for themselves and see their image of a young girl running. You did that just now. In your head, you saw a version of a young girl running. But the details changed the picture. What color was her hair? Was it long and flowing behind her, or was it short and cropped to her head? Was she jogging for exercise or running out of fear? How young was she, 21 or 7? Was she running on a sidewalk or a playground? See what I'm saying? Details help the reader and the listener experience what you're sharing with them on a more visceral level. They see it, they're there in it, and they want more. Details also add humor in this way, for example. If I were to say, when my blind date showed up, he was wearing a black t-shirt that was 2 sizes too small, and across the chest was written one word, nope, in white letters. Those details, while true, add humor. References are a way of alluding to something that is known in cultures or subcultures of a specific era or is well known societally. If you are well versed in pop culture, you can call upon references at the drop of a hat. If you are like the rest of us, who don't have that kind of recall or well of knowledge, you can use references to things that are often universally familiar. Names of famous people, quotes from popular television or films, fictional characters from books or other publications like, Katniss Everdeen or Superman. Recognizable products or logos like McDonald's or Nike. You can also reference music lyrics from well-known songs, etc. Whatever you have in your brain and memory. You don't have to study up and memorize things in order to use reference. Hey, now might be a good time to like and subscribe. Come on board, let's hash all this stuff out. I'll wait. Something fascinating about references that most people never realize is they create what psychologists call in-group bonding, a feeling of belonging that triggers dopamine in the brain. In other words, references literally make your audience's brain light up. Why does this matter for you? I'll reveal that shortly, but first let me show you some real examples from my own work. Here's an example from one of the personal essays I've posted here on the channel. The prompt word for this piece was courage. Let's take a look.
I'm afraid of whales, the likes of which in 1981 swallowed a man who was out alive a few days later, completely bleached from head to toe, looking like Herbert Murlock from the Time Machine.
Many of you aren't going to get that reference, which is totally fine, and I will address using references that some folks may not get in just a minute. But for now, let me explain it. The Time Machine is a movie from 1960 that was remade in 2002 about, get this, a time machine, right? In one of the eras the inventor visits in his time machine, he encounters a character named Uber Murlock. He is the leader of the Murlocs who have lived without sunlight for generations, so they are very pale, with lighter gray eyes and flaxen hair. He looks like this. He looks like he went through the wash cycle on hot using bleach. Now, when I mention this character, not everyone's going to get that reference, and that's okay. I mentioned being bleached from head to toe already, so they already have an image in their heads. But the reference adds a specific for those who get it, and for those who get it, this reference creates a small group who feel in the know. They feel special, and they feel a stronger bond to you. You have this reference and memory in common with them. And that bond makes them want to support you and makes them want to hear more. Do the other members of the audience feel excluded? Maybe. But what you hope they experience is curiosity. You hope they will want to go find out about that film or that character, or even just ask you about it. But that reference promises there are also maybe other references you're going to make in a couple of minutes that maybe they will get and not everyone else will get, and then they will feel like they're in a special group. They're now waiting for it. They're listening or reading, and they're hooked. Let's do another one. I'm going to look this way this time.
I loved this time of the night/morning because I could often drive all the way home without seeing a single other vehicle, and it made me feel like a Mega Man when he's on his way to the abandoned movie theater to watch Woodstock for the something 100th time.
For those of you who don't know this reference, Omega Man was a movie made in 1971 about a single man who survives a pandemic without getting infected. Do we know anything about this? Having lived through a shutdown, you might actually dig it. Go check it out. It's based on a book called I Am Legend, and the movie was remade in 2007 starring Will Smith, and that version was called I Am Legend, coincidentally. In the original film, Omega Man, the infected people who lived are physically changed, and they can no longer go out in the daylight because it's too painful. So during the daylight hours, Dr. Neville, our main character, has the entire city to himself. So he gets in his snazzy convertible and drives really fast through deserted city streets. And many, many of those days, he drives to a movie theater that he's rigged up with electricity somehow. We don't ask that question. And he watches the 1970 documentary about the famous Woodstock Musical Festival. And he watches that because there are a lot of people in that documentary, and he feels very alone. The folks in your audience who get that reference, the reference I made, me driving for a long time without seeing a single other vehicle like Neville, they feel special. And the ones who don't know it are hopefully curious to find out what it is, the same way I hope you are curious to go check it out. When you make a reference that your audience gets in writing, a performance, or in conversation, it usually makes them laugh or smile. A smile is as good as a laugh in the world of communication and in finding humor. It's an I get it reaction, and it endears you to your audience, and that acceptance and being embraced by the people with whom you're trying to communicate is addictive for both you and them. You're going to want more of it, and I say go for it. Use those references. Those first two examples work because they create curiosity or nostalgia, but the next reference technique I use taps into something even more fundamental: childhood memories. Let's take a look.
Most of the time you can say to a kid, okay, you've had enough Laffy Taffy and bottle caps for one Halloween. Let's put the candy away now. And they'll freak out for a little bit because they're on a sugar high. But after a few days, they either tire of the hunt or forget about the leftover wigwag bars and fun Diplicamade. If we weren't going to eat all the candy necklaces and wax lips, what was going to happen to them? I was unable to stop thinking about the candy until I made my parents promise to take it to the church so they could give it to some underprivileged family, because that's what underprivileged families need, is a bag full of Pop Rocks and Bit of Honey Bars and various other referential 1970s candy products.
Did you notice what happened there? Even though this wasn't getting huge laughs, it created something potentially more valuable, an emotional connection. After that show, several people told me how the mention of the candy whisked them back to their youth. And this reveals something crucial about references that some folks miss. Sometimes the goal isn't just laughter, but also connection. Remember what I say here on Punch It Up. Humor helps, humor heightens, and humor is everywhere. Also, humor has levels, because an "aw" brought on by humor is as effective as an audible laugh. Now let me show you the gold standard of what happens when a reference lands perfectly. I was watching Netflix when I saw this masterclass in reference making that demonstrates exactly what you're aiming for. Pay attention to not just what they say, but the reaction it creates. Let's take a look.
You always have to be suspicious of the person who calls the meeting.
The Godfather? Was that Godfather reference?
Yeah, that's it.
Clemenza?
No, the other guy, the Tessio.
Tessio, right.
Yeah.
Tessio approaches Michael at the funeral and asks for a meeting with
Barzini?
Barzini, oh my god, yes!
That is what you hope for when you use a reference. You want people to feel celebratory. See how those two were laughing and connecting? She could have said the same thing without using a film reference, and the point would have been made about her being suspicious, but the humor would have been missed. References are an easy, comfortable way to add humor to conversations, interviews, presentations, or performances, and you don't need a list of them, you just need one. Now that you understand why references work, I want to share my reference accelerator formula. 3 simple patterns you can use immediately without needing to memorize a single pop culture fact. The first one is so simple you'll kick yourself for not using it every day of your life. Pattern 1, he, she, they looked like, and there are a few ways you could finish that. You could say, she looked like Princess Leia from episode 1, but not episode 4. Princess Leia's in both of those episodes, right? So I don't even know, but it still works. And it's a reference that a bunch of people are going to connect with and relate to. Or you could say, she looked like my 82-year-old granny when she tastes something she doesn't like. That's both a detail and a reference. It's not likely they know what your granny looks like, but they know the reference to the face she made because they've seen it when other people have eaten things they don't like. Pattern 2, he, she, they reminded me of. He reminded me of that character Matthew McConaughey played in the movie about the high school students in the 70s. You don't even need to know the name of the movie, but the people who know the film will get that reference. It will make them smile or laugh or possibly quote the film, and it will cause them to feel a kinship with you. By the way, the name of the movie was Dazed and Confused. It's super fun. If you haven't seen it, check it out. And this is the character I was referencing. Dave Wooderson. Of course, that's his name.
All right.
Oh, Christ.
How you doing?
Pattern 3, mundane observations. If you're telling someone about your day, you might say, I went to the grocery store to get snacks for the house and I saw a woman throw a fit at one of the employees. Instead of saying that, you could say, I took the old Toyota to the Piggly Wiggly to pick up some Funyuns and Fanta for the panic room when I saw this woman who looked like Winifred Sanderson from Hocus Pocus flipping her lid with the tiny little wisp of an employee in front of the Fudgicles on the frozen section. I mean, you could use one of those references to up your humor game. That sentence has references and details and heightens the experience for the listener or the reader. The details heighten the visceral experience, and the references give them a sense of belonging. References are fun. All you have to do is use the info you have in your brain already. And just to be clear, had I not known the character name of Winifred Sanderson, I would have just said she looked like Bette Midler in Hocus Pocus. Or I could have said she looked like the redheaded witch in Hocus Pocus. You only need one to raise your humor game. And that's how you do it. If you want to reach out to me with a writing sample of 500 words or less that you're willing to let me use here on Punch It Up to illustrate the method, send it to me here, alexalexander.draft@gmail.com. If you want to work with me one-on-one, reach me at that same email. And just remember, you're not all going to like it. You're not going to like it all. Take what you like and leave the rest. I'm just here to help. Next on the docket is authenticity. It's surprisingly powerful. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Thanks for staying to the end. You know what I'm going to say. You done good. Don't be a pain in my arsenic, please. Ain't no mountain high enough. I'm going to absolutely give up my day job. Have I mentioned that I want you to subscribe?